What's up, guys? I'm BTC. We've been getting more information from the Overwatch devs about upcoming character changes and even new characters and abilities. For some of the existing characters, it looks like one, possibly two of the tanks are going to be getting reworks, at least in some way. It may not be a full rework, but definitely some changes, and also the new characters with new abilities being teased. So the first thing real fast is the character reworks. They did mention that Roadhog is getting a significant change. I did mention this very briefly before, and just to reiterate, Roadhog is just kind of way too good at what he does right now with the combo. Basically, you can one-hit, well, I guess technically two-hit combo. You hit him with the hook, and then you reel him in, and you attack, and you get basically a free elimination on most characters in the game. And it's just way too good at this point. So they are going to be making some changes to the character. I don't know exactly what they're going to do, other than they will be removing that one hit. I guarantee there is going to be some sort of significant nerf to either his damage or the cooldown. But even then, I think they want to kind of remove the ability to get that one hit altogether. I think they're probably going to end up reducing the damage on his primary attack and making it so that he can attack more often and possibly have a wider spread or something to that effect. But I don't think that combo is going to work after they do their little rework of Roadhog. The other character that is going to be getting some pretty significant changes, and Blizzard didn't specifically say that it's going to be a rework, but it does sound like they are effectively giving a small kind of sort of rework to junkerqueen. And this is just because the character right now doesn't quite work all that well. And I actually enjoy playing the character. I think it's pretty fun, but there are a lot of issues with her, and she just doesn't quite have the sustainability or the damage required to kind of, be competitive. So they are going to be making some pretty significant changes to that character. I think it's going to be more than just number changes. Just like with Roadhog, it does sound like they are going to be making a bunch of changes to how the abilities work and that sort of thing. But honestly, at this point, I think that the tank role is misnamed because none of the characters, except for Reinhardt, really functions like a tank anymore. They're just fat DPS, and, well, that's causing a lot of issues for the tank role in general, and that's something that I'll talk about in another video. Moving on, there was a live stream yesterday with the Overwatch devs, and they talked about a bunch of stuff in the game, and also what they plan on adding, and some of the ideas that they have for new characters. And one of those was the fact that they wanted to add a lot of unique type abilities that basically haven't been seen before. And the quote is, "We always have a bunch of those lined up in terms of prototypes, and maybe some designers are making," and added that a bunch of the prototypes were created recently during one of their little events, internal events, and some of the results were very exciting. Now, while I do think that sounds good for the game, we also have to remember that with Ramatra, they said that he was going to add something unique that had never been added to the game before, and it turned out to be his ability to shift into a different form, which actually wasn't new because Bastion had been... It's like they just forgot about Bastion. Like, oh yeah, he's gonna add something new that's never been in the game before. He can shift between two different forms. And it's like, well, hang on a second. Didn't Bastion been able to do that since, like, day one? Anyways, so they did talk about that, and they said, in regards to new characters, they talked about how there are a bunch of characters that people have seen in the comics and some of the cutscenes and this and that and whatever, and there's been obviously a lot of desire to see those as playable characters, so they said there's plenty within the world of Overwatch being so rich. I think a lot of those characters that you haven't seen become heroes, I think that one day we definitely want to explore what they would be like as a hero, end quote. And then they also mentioned that there's a new ability that they've been trying to get to work, which is a flamethrower. Now, this is actually something that they did try to put into the game once before, and that was with Hammond. And here is some of the really old footage of Hammond. This is some of his early builds where instead of having the attack that he has now, he had dual flamethrowers on both sides. Now, obviously, this has kind of an issue where whether it's a primary attack or an ability, and it does seem like the devs don't want it to be a primary attack. They want it to be an ability instead, and that they are working at trying to add it to the game because it's something that they really would like to see. This also reminds me of what they said with the railgun, because a while ago, long while ago, Jeff Kaplan said that they wanted to add a railgun to the game, and they couldn't quite figure out how to make it to work, basically as a primary. And of course, they ended up adding it as a secondary. And I think that's probably what's going to end up happening with this flamethrower, rather than having, just a constant kind of flamethrower type attack. You think like what May's attack is, except it would be much bigger and it would probably add a damage over time or something like that, similar to Ash's TNT. And obviously, if you have something like that, it's kind of a problem. It is really difficult to balance that sort of thing, because either it's going to be really, really weak and you completely rely on the damage over time, that little dot, or it's just ridiculously powerful and it just doesn't work. And so if they make it into an ability, that kind of removes a lot of that problem, though, because then you only get to activate it and you use it for like 2 or 3 seconds or however long the ability actually works. Or you could put it on a meter, so it could be something like any number of other abilities in the game where you get to use it, like, Defense Matrix or Bastion's old healing or whatever, or even, Moira's primary healing, right? Like, you have a meter and you can only use a certain amount of it, and then you have to wait for it to recharge. You could do that, and that would work perfectly fine as like a secondary, but then you would have something else for your primary as the attack. And it does seem like they are going to go with the flamethrower as an ability rather than the primary. Now, as far as new character goes, we know that we're getting a support next season for the Battle Pass, and then after that, next season, or the one following that, I don't believe we're getting any new characters. Instead, they're just going to add a new map, and then after that, it's going to kind of flip back and forth. So it's going to be new map, new character, new map, new character for each other successive battle pass as it goes on. So they are going to be slowing that down quite a bit. However, the next one, like I said, will be a support. If they do add like a flamethrower type character, I wouldn't expect to see that until, probably sometime, I don't know, late next year. So it would probably be quite a while before we actually see something like that in the game. I actually do have an unreleased hero concept of a character that uses a flamethrower, but I never ended up getting any artwork for it or anything like that. So it was always in kind of like the development stages, and I really had a hard time kind of balancing that attack. So again, like I said, probably would be better as an ability than a primary attack. So what do you guys think about the upcoming changes? What do you think they're going to end up doing for a rework for Roadhog and for junkerqueen? Let me know down below.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit, I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit, I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive.